Hello everyone, welcome back to the place in the sun, my little place when I share the things that bring me joy. Today I'm coming with a little bit late video of highlights of my spring. I still wanted to do it as also a reference back for me for the things that have been going on in my life, but also what I enjoyed using in a season of spring. So I tend to have a very seasonal practice. Things are changing for me with the seasons. I try to connect to the season that is currently as best as possible. So this is something that is very present in my practice. So also I would like to shout out some things, bring some highlights of decks that I've been using, but also some books and maybe some things in my life that has been happening in this past spring, just to remind myself that there is a lot of things going on and that there can be little joys in my life despite many hardships. So I have a spreadsheet in which I'm keeping track of the decks that I'm using, so I can very easily say which decks has been used the most. This is the most used deck in the in spring, which is very understandable as this is Children of Ostara. So because of my practice of working with the different tarot decks each week, a lot of my tarots are being used quite a lot in that certain period of time, so it's harder to say which decks are like really the favorites, because it might be that they were just used in that practice and they were not used outside of it. So it is a little bit changing my numbers when it comes to tarot, but this one has been used much more than just in the practice. So I can easily say that has been the most used deck of the season. I really love it. I love the art. I love the play with the plants. I love the mix of the creatures when we are having those more mythical creatures mixed with plants. This like shape shifting, the presence of humans, but also on some cards the lack of them. Some cards are a little bit more pippish. Some of them are a little bit more dynamic. There is scenes, and you can also go into the folklore behind the plants. So this is a deck that you can use just as it is and read it as it is. You can play a little bit more with the meaning of the plants. You can go further and explore the plants even further, but you can also play in it in a way of like a fantastical world in which you are exploring. It has also this grounding energy. It has this earthy energy thanks to the plants, but still with this element of magic, inspiration, and really pulling you into this magical world. So I really loved using it. It was used, of course, also a lot. I can maybe doing a little bit in the pairing way. So one of the decks that I also use a lot in this season is, of course, Season of the Witch Ostara. So in this context, this for sure is a pair. I like using them together. There are other pairs that I also like using with Children of Ostara, but for the time when we are having a spring equinox, I like pulling them in that week and playing together, and they're grounding me into the celebration of the spring equinox. Even if I'm not able to do much things for the celebration itself, it already gives me this celebratory feeling, and grounds me a little bit in what's happening around me in the nature. So this is also the deck that's been used a lot, of course, in the season. That's a no-brainer. So when it comes to the second most used tarot deck in the spring is the Wisdom of the Depth. So I had a lot of seaside trips, which I tend to take this deck with me for those trips. I did travel with that deck. I was taking it to Malta. I was working with it as the part of my 52 weeks of tarot practice. So it has been getting a lot of use. I really loved it this season. Something about the colors, about the blue and purple. I had this time in, I think, March and April that I had really weird connections to those colors, in a way that even the books that I was picking up very often were dominated, the covers, in those colors. So there would be a lot of blues, purples, and greens, and it would be going, and I didn't realize it until later, looking at my overview all the books that I've been reading, and I noticed that there's a color pattern. So I was really drawn towards those colors, and I did really enjoy that deck. So something that I can also show as a pair, because it's also in my top oracles for this spring, is Seashell Oracle from Broccoli magazine. And this is, I think, my most used Broccoli magazine oracle, but also I think it is my favorite. I use it a lot throughout the year, and with those two I've been also traveling. It was a pair that was working together all the time. I really love it and was using it constantly. It is something, for me it was surprising that I was using it so much in the spring, because normally this is my like summer must reach for, the most used one in summer, but somehow that spring really called for the energy of the sea. So with the oracles, I can say much more that they are very special in this season, since I'm not using them for other practice currently. But so those, if those are here, it means that they were really loved and used a lot in the spring. The next tarot that I've been using a lot is Sasuraibito tarot. Of course, it was used in my 52 weeks of tarot, but also I was pulling it again much more for connecting to my emotional world and to seeing where I'm struggling, to trying to dissect the situations that were very emotional in my life. That's something that I love to do with the deck. So it got really pulled. I think thanks to 52 weeks of tarot, it got brought back to the front of my mind. So then I could start using it again a little bit more and be reminded how much I really like it. This is a traveler's edition, so it is smaller, so it's also really easy to use when I am struggling with my hands. So this is something that is like a really easy, comforting deck that I can pull whatever I have a need for this emotional band-aid, but also emotional exploration in my day. So that would be another highly used tarot deck in my collection. For the next one is a Gentle Tarot. And I have two editions of this deck. This is the linen edition. I have also the pocket edition, but I pull out this one because it's on my desk currently, as I've been using it also lately. So this is something, once again, used for 52 weeks of tarot, so of course it was used a lot. But then it also reminded me how much this warm hug can do for me. So it has been laying around on my desk, and whenever I have a need to look at something with more love, I do pull it out and I do use it. Now I also have a linen edition. It's only in the spring that I got it, and it comes with its own feeling of softness and something like a blanket. Like my smaller edition does not have this feeling. I don't know if this is something sensory wise, that the linen edition has a different feeling on my fingers, but it does feel much more like this warm hug, like weight blanket, and I tend to use it more when I am having this sore soul that needs holding by something, and then I'm pulling out the deck. And here it's gonna be the most easy pairing in this context that was used a lot also together, which is my Inner Fire. This is the most used oracle in spring. I'm not surprised, as this is new oracle in my collection, relatively new, and it has been pulled a lot. I've been trying to find different pairs that I can use it, not only Gentle Tarot, but also other decks. But to be honest, with this one, with the oracle, I prefer using my smaller edition because it differentiates between them. It creates bigger contrast, so I can see what is the oracle and what is the tarot, because when they're the same size, I think they become for me a little bit more smooshed together. So I have this differentiation that with this one I usually use the smaller edition. And I really love playing with it. It's something that I take on my own and pull a card, or I try pairing with different things, and it brings this sparks of inspiration, energy, and like a little bit like welcoming back the fire in the spring after the winter, after slowing down. So also for me personally now, when exploring how to get more energy and how to come back to doing things, it was also something that really was helping a lot in the spring. So that was my friend Fire and Gentle Tarot. So the next deck that has been used a lot is Herbcrafter's Tarot. This is another deck that for me is a comfort, is a grandma deck that you come to in spring and summer to hanging around with her, and she teaches you about the plants, about making you a warm meal and welcoming to her space. That's how this deck really feels for me. So this is something that I really love to use also in those moments when I struggle, but also connecting to the world outside. Some of those plants I can find in my garden. Some of them are growing in the area around me, so I can use the deck to pull myself into my everyday life, to ground myself, anchor myself, and find my own space within the world around me. It really helps when I'm too much in my head to do this practice of like trying to find that plant, try to connect with it in some ways. There are propositions of practice within the guidebook, so I can play with it in this way, but I can also try my own ways of connecting to the plants. So that would be another tarot. And the last one that is also a new deck for me, but already very present in my spiritual practice, is the Coastal Crow and Raven Tarot. This is a self-published deck by MJ Cullinane, and it also arrived this year. And this is something that was with me on my pilgrimage in Ireland. It is a lot of used deck, and this is not a deck that I use in 52 Weeks of Tarot, which is already showing that I think from all the decks that I show, this is the only one that's not yet been used in this practice, and yet it has a lot of use in spring. It's something that really speaks to my current spiritual path, my current spiritual explorations. This is also the deck that has this element of seaside, so this is something that I've been also taking for my seaside trips. And this is also a deck that really sees me in the way I am right now. And in Ireland, it was working so beautifully. It was so touching and so transforming that it for sure, whatever I would have to think, not look at on my spreadsheet what really I've been using, what I really loved this season, that will be the first one that I would say, oh, this is the spring. This is for me what I've been using in spring. This is what I loved in spring. So this is the Coastal Crow and Raven Tarot. Absolutely love it. The guidebook is amazing. I really do recommend it. So now coming to oracles, because this video is already like all over the place, showing some of the oracles as pairs, showing some of them separately. So this is Season of the Witch Beltane. This is not surprised. The Beltane was also in the spring. The deck that I've been using, this one, it was part of my seasonal practice. With 4 decks out of 8 from Seasons of the Witch, I've been trying this year doing a bit more grounding practice around the seasons. I like to have a seasonal practice that is bringing me into my real world. So I've been exploring card by card and trying to bring this energy into my everyday life. With some of the things it's easier. Is, for example, learning more about the fertilizing, how to improve my current fertilizer creating setup, and when it comes to oak, it's like finding oaks around and spending time with them, exploring the meaning behind the oak. So this is really like a deep dive with a deck, but also bringing it into the reality. I did have to give up it at some point during the spring. when I had to limit a little bit my practice, that was one of those that I had to give up and reduce a lot, which is a pity because I do really love it, but I just did not have the energy to follow with all the practices that I wanted to do. So this is something that fall off at some point. I do really love it, so even though it was like in smaller version. I did before in bulk Oracle, where I also was exploring card by card, and I am not able to go through the whole deck in this way because it is meant to be much slower, since you're meeting the archetype, exploring the archetype, how it's differently seen in different places, and I really take my notes, I do write down stuff, I explore what the creators of the deck had behind the certain cards. So it is like a bit more time consuming practice, but in a sense it also allows me to learn more about the deck, but also create my own associations and bring it into the reality. So this is what was my seasonal practice in like smaller format with the Seasons of the Witch Beltane. And then it's a deck that's been a huge surprise. This is a deck that I managed to get secondhand last year. It's a Pathfinder, and I'm so surprised because I thought that I'm gonna struggle to place it somewhere in my practice. It has this otherworldly, cosmic vibe about it, which is not always my thing, but so weirdly enough, this deck wants to work with so many decks. It works so beautifully with them. I get such amazing messages that allow me to explore so many things. The fact that normally I'm not a fan of just having like a name of an object on a card and no keywords. It's like not always working for me, or I would say very rarely it works, but in this context I think everything that is in here has some kind of a meaning personally for me, so I can tap into it. There is still the guidebook, which allows you to also look at the cards from 4 different perspectives, as we have different phases of the moon, and each of them has a different meaning. So depending how the card is in your reading, you get a different message, but you can play with that, or you can also just take what resonates with you. So it is very versatile, and it works really surprisingly with so many of my decks, and I enjoy it so much that, again, if I would have to say which deck without using and looking at my spreadsheet, which deck is like the most used deck of the spring, which is the spring deck that I really use and love, it would be the Pathfinder, even though it is not the most used deck. And then a deck that I think would be mentioned in every single my most used of any season, because this is Spread Crafter's Oracle. This is something that I use a lot. I have also the expansion quest. Those decks are kept separately. I do not mix them. They have for me completely different energies. So, and most of the time, if I have a deck, one or the other is going to work with the deck. I can really pair it with almost anything. I really love this play of the word. I really love, in my way of exploring things, not only when cards, but also when journaling. I like mixing image with the word. I like playing with drawing something and then adding to it different words. So having a deck that one I can have tarot or other oracle with some image, the art, and then having one keyword and then the whole description that you can also play with, it really works well with how my brain processes information and how I like to explore my things, playing with the image, word, how they bounce off each other, how they create something new, and because of that, the deck is for sure like one of the most used decks in my collection, together with the quest expansion. And this is something that is like a staple. It's something that's, whenever I also feel overwhelmed and I have hard time processing things, this makes it easier because I have already a word on I have a word on the card and I can play with that. So that would be my top used decks. Maybe to have something to look at, I'm gonna pick up Herbcrafters just to have something in the background. When it comes to my other things that were happening that spring. There is 2 books that were super present in my life. I've read much more, but this is something that was really present. So, and it really left an impact. So one of the books is If Women Rose Rooted, The Power of Celtic Women. This is a book that was with me for my Irish pilgrimage. This is a book that I've been slowly reading chapter by chapter, a little bit before traveling to Ireland, but also during my stay in Ireland. So it was referencing to where I am, as Celtic culture is very present over there. And it was very beautifully matching what was coming up to me in this process of the pilgrimage. It was meeting me where I was, and also it touched so many places in my soul that I can really recommend that book. I sometimes say it as a Celtic version of Women Running with the Wolves, as it is having this similar feeling. There's a lot of references to the Celtic stories, and then seeing the messages from them, but also to the environment around us. So different ecosystems that are present. So it was absolutely beautiful read. It was a process. And the second book that was also for me a process was Men Searching for Meaning. I'll try to put the pictures of the books so it's easy to reference them. This is something that I got as a present for my good friend, and is a book that I also was slowly reading through on a different process, which was my travels to the seaside, and also like in the waiting room at the doctor's. So it was something that met me really in the place that I needed to be seen in the moment when I was struggling with my health, and then it's harder to find a meaning if you're not able to do much. Then still at the seaside, seeing the beauty of the world around us, and finding again hope and lightness within myself. It is not a long book, but it's a really impactful one. I think I could really recommend it for anyone to read it, and take out of it what you need to take out of it. So that was like 2 books that were the most present books of my spring. And then when it comes to my private life, I do have a year of a fool, and because of that, I'm trying to do a lot of new things, and explore new things and open myself up to new possibilities. And I think it really worked nicely in the way the spring come out. I become for the first time a foster for kittens that needed urgently to find a safe space, and an organization that I work with, from where my cats happens to be, was looking for someone to take care of them. So we took them in. So in the end, it was like a huge zoo in my house. Still, 2 of the kittens are here. One of them got adopted already. So it is like a long journey of my spring. It's taking care of kittens and seeing them also growing, changing, and coming out of their shells, and seeing how beautiful these creatures are. And they bring me a lot of joy, presence, and also allowing me to take care of more animals, but without bringing them exactly in my house in a way that they will stay here forever. Um, but still, I can make life better for more creatures. So, like, short term, taking care of them and then sending them into the world for their new families, the better places that they can be taken care of compared to where they came from. So, for sure, kittens, I will try to put in some pictures of the kittens. So, those guys got really huge place in my heart for the spring. Another thing is for sure my process of a pilgrimage. So I think I mentioned it before already in the videos, but as my personal spiritual path, and also coming back to myself in the process of finding myself within the body that is struggling with chronic illnesses, I started the process of my personal pilgrimage, what I call pilgrimage, and I do travel to different countries in Europe and try to get to the highest point of each country. In some places this is very flat journey, in some places it's mountains. I used to be a very mountain person. I still am a mountain person, it's just I live in a country with barely any mountains right now. But this is somewhere where I find myself. This is a place walking in the mountains and in nature. It's somewhere where I'm really connecting back to myself. I'm finding new aspects of myself. I can see that I connect to someone completely different the moment I am in the mountains, and I feel so much better. Even my body is much more cooperative, and I can enjoy the trips much more. So for sure, the spring was full of my trips for that, which I did with my partner and our dogs. We went to Luxembourg, which was surprisingly a really beautiful hike that we did. Even though it's a very, very flat and very low um, hill, really. Was a little bit up and down, but not like really high mountain style walking. But it was for sure a really beautiful process because I could be there with my animals, with my partner, and also in the process I'm stopping and exploring certain topics with the tarot. So this is something that is like a slower process of finding myself and exploring things that come up, and how can I differently look at my life through this pilgrimage, meeting myself in different environments. So this is something really beautiful. The most impactful one is for sure the one that I took by myself to Ireland, and I was climbing Coranto Hill, and that was absolutely beautiful meeting with myself. I think I saw the me that has been hidden under the layers of pain, grief, also struggling to really comes to term with certain life changes that happened in my life, and also just being present and being in this magical world. For sure, Ireland is one of the places that I absolutely adore. It's not my first time being in Ireland, and this is for sure a place that I'm gonna be coming back to. So that trip was an absolute life-changing event. I think out of all my pilgrimages so far, this one was the most impactful. And then the last one that I did was also with my partner, but just with my partner without our animals. When we went to Malta, and that was one that I've been struggling the most with when it comes to my health. So it was also the one that I was really meeting with my own boundaries, with my own limitations, and seeing my pilgrimage also from this other side, not only like highs of like, yes, I can go and be in the nature, but also I still am living in my body. It was interesting experience, but for sure I wanted it to be a little bit softer on me, but I still really do enjoy it, and it was a beautiful trip. I could spend some time with my partner, with my cards, and also he really appreciated those moments of stillness when I was reading cards, and he could just sit and watch the ocean. So for him it was also interesting process, because normally we're so used of moving on the holidays from spot A to spot B, rushing everywhere, and suddenly there were those moments when he had nothing really to do, just waiting for me reading cards on some rock. And so for him those were moments of stopping and really seeing the world around him, and also slowing down within himself and finding some answers for himself. So that was interesting in this way, that it was not only my process, but also the process of my partner. So that would be the trips. And also spring became very full of trips to the seaside. So like I said, I am really a mountain person, and I used to live near mountains, so whenever I was struggling, I would just travel to mountains. I would be hiking, come back, because within a day I could just do a trip, come back, and I would be refreshed, revitalized. But here there's not really so much mountains, really not really mountains, there are more hills, and also it is further away from me, so it is becoming like really huge trip that I cannot just so easily take with jumping into the train and reaching. It's much more planning. So it became much harder for me to go into mountains. And I was so stubborn about like, oh, my space is only I can recharge in the mountains, but then I realized, but I do live near seaside. Why I don't try a different kind of relaxation? Maybe in this country this is not the mountains, but it's the sea, and I can easily jump into the train, get to the seaside, and enjoy myself over there. So I did have few trips to the seaside, very slow, short walks, really, because I could not really walk that far, but it was still the moment of stillness, searching for some shells, and other different elements. It was also going a few times with my family, with my partner, with the animals. So that really made that seaside come in all different colors. And because it is still not, the spring is not yet the high season, it's not so crowded, I can really enjoy it. In the summer, I don't really enjoy seaside so much because it's too crowded and too loud. But in the spring, it's still really beautiful. And you also notice the ebbs and flows of the sea in certain spots. If I would visit the same spot, I started to know how the sea would interact with the land with a change of time throughout the day, and I could really feel the power of the sea in this way. So that was also something that was really, really beautiful. Something that I tried in the spring as part of my falls journey exploration is also going for the blacksmith workshop, where I managed to make a knife. So it was also something new, something that I never tried. It is something that would be too hard for me to continue as a hobby, but as an experience of seeing how all the different elements, fire, water, air, together help us create those beautiful metal things. It was something really beautiful and transformative in the process. It was really interesting experience. I always wanted to try blacksmithing, but I am aware that this is also really heavy. You need some force for it, so it's not something that I might be able to continue. But I would for sure want to try making also some smaller things like jewelry. I think it would be also interesting and maybe a little bit lighter than making a whole knife. But then maybe at some point I can reach for that too. So that was also another thing. And the last thing that I managed to do for my Fool's Year exploration is I created a group among my friends for play dates, when we can send out if someone has some idea for doing something fun, for doing something out there. So we went already bowling like that, we went to play frisbee golf. So this is a chance for us to create more of a community and the feeling that we can do things together as a group. And with different people, so if someone cannot join, it's fine, but then someone else usually can, and like this we can play together and do some stuff together. For me, it's really important to create communities and to bring some more play and joy into life. So creating my own group in which we can do it much easier, it was something that was really important for me this spring. So this is my highlights of spring. I hope it was interesting for you guys, and I would happily hear what most used decks for you are this spring, and also what interesting things, maybe something new that you tried this year. And maybe I will get some inspiration for some new things that I can try out in my Fool's Year. And happy to see you, and see you next time.